Ladies and gentlemen, the National Dialogue Committee, co-chaired by Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka and Kimani Ichung'wah, released their report last week. And for those who follow the politics of the Republic of Kenya, William Samoei Arap Ruto, the President of the Republic of Kenya, immediately embraced the report and directed his members of parliament to go ahead and pass that particular report.
I want to congratulate all the teams that were involved in the dialogue process. They have come up with recommendations. I have seen the recommendations. They are in good stead. All the recommendations they have made, they are practical. We are going to work on those recommendations to reduce in areas they have recommended, to do whatever they have recommended in Parliament. Those that belong to the executive, I will make sure that we execute without any delay.
But Raila Odinga instead convened a meeting of his brigades to discuss the report. And today, Raila Odinga and Azimio One Kenya Alliance brigades held a crisis meeting at Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka's center in Nairobi to discuss the report. In this video, I want us to do a critical analysis about what Raila Odinga and Azimio One Kenya Alliance discussed during that particular meeting and the press statement that they released earlier. But I observed a few things during that meeting. The first thing that I observed was the absence of Martha Karua. Why do you think Martha Karua was absent? Because this is not the first time Martha Karua has been missing Azimio One Kenya Alliance meetings. The truth of the matter is that since Raila Odinga endorsed Kalonzo Musyoka's bid for the presidency, in quotes in Bondo, Martha Karua has been missing most of Azimio One Kenya Alliance meeting. The other thing I observed was the absence of Eugene Malwa. Eugene Malwa actually made some technical appearance, then he disappeared. He was part of that committee. Eugene Malwa never appended his signature to that report, and that can explain why he decided to skip the event. The third thing I observed was the absence of the Makwiny group. Makwiny group is a group of Mount Kenya leaders who are actually advocating for the interest and the welfare of Mount Kenya. They are led by Martha Karua. They were missing. Why do you think they were missing? The fourth thing I observed, which probably you also observed, was the absence of Jubilee Party. You can always tell the presence of Jubilee Party by the presence of Jeremiah Kioni, the Secretary General. I think I saw someone like Raphael Tuju, but the fact is Jubilee was not really represented at this particular meeting. Jubilee as a political party is a key player in Azimio. And for me, I can conclude the absence of Jubilee to mean the objection of the report by Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. And of course, now let me read for you this part of the statement so that you can understand the tone of this statement. This is how the statement began: that I thank the members from both sides of the talks for the commitment and dedication to the national duty. After the initial tension and mistrust, which was expected, the parties gelled and worked well together. Trust returned in their ranks, and they were then able to show a strong commitment to the peace and reconciliation and the strengthening of institutions and governance processes in Kenya. You can tell that that's a very good tone for this statement, and it proceeds. The document the team has come up with is ultimately imperfect and unfinished, but it is a beginning. So from the tone, you can feel it's a very good beginning. Let's proceed. We have agreed to disagree on the most important matter to us. As we are saying, they've agreed to disagree with their counterpart on the most important matter to them. They are proceeding. We made what we believed were reasonable proposals on how to address the cost of living. Now remember, Kenyans were like, if the cost of living is not captured there, then there is generally no need of this report. So Azimio are still clinging to that, and they are proceeding. But the government side flatly refused, terming it their exclusive business, and further arguing that they got the mandate of Kenyans to execute their Kenya Kwanza economic agenda. We will be engaging Kenyans further in the coming weeks as we must because the pain of cost of living is really unbearable. In the coming weeks, the majority of Kenyans will be carrying the burden of increased school fees and increased health care cost, besides the many cries of both education and health center. So you can tell the tone begins in a very good note, then it ends in a very sad note. But I can conclude two things based on that tone. That number one, there were strong external forces behind this bipartisan report. And that's why Raila Odinga is still trying to take a middle ground. The tone is good, the tone is bad. And of course, you can also see that the politics of cost of living is something that Azimio One Kenya Alliance are not willing to let go. So in this video, I want us to do a critical analysis. But before we do that, for those who are watching this channel for the first time, please take a second or two, click that subscribe button so that next time we produce a video like this, YouTube will automatically notify you. And to the subscribers, I want to continue thanking you guys for your continued support, because without that support, this channel cannot be where it is. Ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, allow me to dive in. And by the way, my microphone has actually just refused to turn on. It's not charging. I don't know what just happened, because it was just working, so I'm not able to use it. The other one, which I used to use before, is not still compatible. So hopefully you are not really struggling to hear whatever I'm saying. Hopefully it's also just normal, so I'm just recording normally. Ladies and gentlemen, from my own perspective, I've come to the following conclusion. First of all, listening to this part of the statement.
Our team realized the whole issue of cost of living is extremely sensitive in the Kenya Kwanza circles, because it is a gravy train on which many corrupt interests have converged. Cost of living cannot come down because the key people in the government are eating from it. That is why cabinet secretaries and other Kenya Kwanza shareholders recently fought over oil in the high seas. We got to understand that the housing levy, which even the courts have now found to be unconstitutional, cannot be scrapped because it is a gravy train. It is from this levy that the Kenya Kwanza hopes to build a campaign war chest for the next election. They forget that they may not get there. We realized that Kenya Kwanza cannot touch cost of living because it anchors the massive corruption that has returned to the country. We made it clear that we completely disagree with the government on the matter of cost of living. We made it clear that we will support the document ensuing from the talks, but we will treat the hard line on the cost of living at the beginning of another phase of this struggle. We will seek other ways to press the government to listen to the cries of the people and bring down the cost of living. The other ways will include, but will not be limited to, consultations with the people. At all times, we will retain the right to call on the people to take steps that we deem necessary to force the government to lower the cost of living.
Number one, there is serious division in Azimio. And I've tried to ask around, but there are cracks in Azimio over this particular report. And of course, majority of Azimio supporters believed that this report, or the entire bipartisan, the National Dialogue Committee meeting, the entire process was actually meant to waste time for Raila Odinga and Azimio, and probably to slow down the tempo which had picked, especially during the mandamanos. But there are cracks. If you ask me, those cracks are now manifesting themselves. Martha Karua is speaking a different language from Kalonzo Musyoka. And that's why I began this video by pointing out that I observed the absence of Martha Karua. I'm told that in Azimio, there are those who really want Raila Odinga to call for demos. But Raila Odinga is also not willing to subject his supporters to demos this soon, because it was part and parcel of this agreement when the deal was brokered. So that's the reality. Remember, at some point, Kalonzo Musyoka was very clear that he was not going to allow Raila Odinga to be dragged back to the streets.
Kwa hivyo, msiwe tumtangojea sisi tu Raila arudi pale. I will not allow Raila, me myself, arudi kwa maandamano. Let the country do it. Munanisikia? Hello? Umesikia what I said? Yani sio Raila kila wakati na Kalonzo anapigwa tear gas. I want you to know, bishops.
So I can see that unless Azimio One Kenya Alliance will manage the whole thing well, but I can see cracks. I can see Jubilee not part of this agreement, which means Azimio might actually split. There's the faction. Raila Odinga, from my own understanding now, is standing with Kalonzo Musyoka, and that's why he has actually embraced this particular statement. Because if he had disagreed with Kalonzo Musyoka, because Kalonzo Musyoka had actually gone ahead and read the statement alongside Kimani Ichung'wah, if Raila Odinga had gone ahead and disregarded this report, it would have meant that he has thrown Kalonzo Musyoka under the bus. So for me, I'm seeing Raila Odinga going with Kalonzo Musyoka moving forward. Number two, based on the tone of this report, it is now clear that there is a silent handshake between Raila Odinga and William Ruto. That's why William Ruto easily embraced this report. Raila Odinga probably would have also embraced this particular report. But because of the interest in Azimio, he could not do that. That's why he convened that meeting. Remember, there are also the stories that Raila Odinga and Azimio One Kenya Alliance have also probably been shortchanged in this particular report. But Raila Odinga is also just trying to embrace the report because of the handshake. Probably, just like I said, there are forces, very powerful forces behind this handshake. It will come very clearly moving forward. Number three, the cost of living is something that is going to continue being with us. Because according to Kenya Kwanza, the cost of living has already gone down. According to them, their manifesto, the subsidies on production is working. For Azimio, the cost of living is equals to the high taxation. And therefore, they wanted specific issues, specific taxes to be removed. But Ruto is clinging to those taxes. If you remove them, he will not have the money. And of course, remember, just like Omtata was trying to explain, William Ruto is selling the country to IMF. And lastly, the referendum. And this is where a fallout is going to emerge between Kenya Kwanza and Azimio. There are certain sections of these proposals touching on structure of government. For example, how do you bring the issue of the prime minister without affecting the structure of governance? How do you come up with the office of the official opposition leader without affecting the structure of government? Which means they will have to be subjected to referendum. If you ask me, I don't think William Ruto is going to be ready for a referendum. Because the mood of the country is also very clear. They might, if you bring to this country a referendum proposal, Kenyans are angry. Kenyans are very bitter. They will kick it out. They will say no. So Ruto is not willing to lose a referendum. Again, if this referendum were to happen, then the questions about BBI, why BBI was never allowed to succeed. That question is going to happen. And of course, there are other issues which many people can actually bring on board. Like, for example, the issue of gender bill, the issue of additional counties. So let us wait and see. But for me, this report is not a good report. Raila Odinga is just embracing it because there are powerful forces behind the report. I don't know what you think. That's my take. Until next time, this is Lee Makwiny. Bye-bye.